Hey, welcome to the second course video for the song How Could You Leave Us from NF and his album Therapy Session. This is where we do a deep dive into the lyrics and meaning behind the music. I'm musically malnourished, and you're on my journey to go deep and wide in discovering new music and artists. This was a heavy one, man, and I have some of my own experience with this subject, not necessarily with substance abuse, so I'm trying to figure out how much to share, but I think there's some good stuff here, so let's get in. See what's going on with this song. How could you leave us? NF questions his mother's sudden departure and death, uncovering the heartbreaking moments he was able to share with her. Unfortunately, his mother's addiction to pills caused her overdose and take her own life. Through this song, it is the closest NF is able to reach his mother and therefore receive therapy. Let me go over to this side. I was bawling my eyes out in the studio. I had my producer leave the studio and I just talked over the beat, which is what you hear in the song. That's what I figured, because it was so raw, so real. I'm sure he was just kind of pouring it out. Hardest song I've ever recorded, hardest video I've ever shot, but it's worth the impact. I hope this video impacts people's lives in the way it has mine. Yeah. I think, so two things. First, I think this idea, questions his mother's departure and death. I think also it's not just about her departure and death, right? Because it's simultaneously the fact that she was never there, period. And so, yes, you mourn their death, but you probably also mourn the fact that you never really shared in their life. They didn't share their life with you. They shared their life with substance. They shared their life with career. They shared their life with other relationships, whatever it might be, but not with you. And that's kind of what I talked about in the React, is I think, at least in my own experience, without sharing too much, I don't really think about it very often, and I think that's probably, I have such rich relationships in my life. My past and then my encounter with Jesus transformed everything about me. I knew I wanted to be a father. I knew I wanted to get married, and I'm married to the love of my life. I have 3 wonderful children, and part of that, my experience. And honestly, I just give all glory to God. He gives wisdom, and he helps you not be selfish. And I can say honestly, the greatest pride in my life is being a husband and a father. And he's enabled me to be the person I desired to be to my wife, to my children, and then obviously to my friends and in other places, but that's what comes first. And, I read to my children nearly every night for 10 years. Obviously, as they got older, it just looks different in how we hang out in the evenings and what bedtime looks like. Because my oldest is 14 now. But I've always worked hard to prioritize them and not just give them, like, I'm the bad guy too, that's part of being a parent, especially as they get older. That you're the bad guy, you're willing to be the bad guy. It's kind of like Wreck-It Ralph. Just because I'm bad guy doesn't mean I'm bad guy, right? You're willing to become the villain at times in your children's life because that's what discipline is. Even the scriptures tell us that. Nobody likes discipline in the moment, but if you're trained by it, and if there's discipline with a whole heckload of love, and you put the time and the attention and the work in, that it reaps something beautiful. And so I think part of my experience gave guidance to what I wanted to be. And I talked also about thinking generations ahead. That ultimately, and I don't have like an abusive past or anything like that, but there is a sense of abandonment that exists. And I guess ultimately, I didn't have the relationship with my parents that I desired. And therefore, my children don't fully have the relationship with grandparents that I wish. But I knew I could do a different thing for my children. And then thinking a generation ahead is I have to mourn what wasn't with my parents. And then I mourn what isn't for my children with grandparents. But I know I can be to my children what I think that a parent relationship should look like. And know that I can gift a grandparent relationship to their children, Lord willing. And so, I guess on that, let's get into the lyrics here. How could you leave so unexpected? We were waiting for you, but you just left us. We needed you. I needed you. I don't know what it's like to be addicted to pills, but I do know what it's like to be a witness. It kills. Mama told me she loved me. I'm thinking this isn't real. I think of you, and these were the lines that hit so hard, right? Because these are deeper thoughts. These are things that you don't really understand as a child. But I think as you grow older, you're like, well, you said you loved me, but where was the proof of it? There's proof in real love. Action follows real love. Think of you when I get a whiff of that cigarette smell. So again, like, what do you want to be remembered by? My wife has a specific, she has a specific laundry detergent that she purchases for when we go on vacations that invokes a smell of vacation. Every time she picks it up when we're getting ready to go on vacation, she's like, smell this. What does it make you think of? Whether it's Disney or the beach or whatever. And I think the hope too is that some of those things like chili cooking, you walk into a house, oh, it reminds me of home. Taco nights, again, laundry, whatever it might be, a cologne that you wear. And so to be remembered for something like that is tragic. Welcome to the bottom of hell. They say pain is a prison. Let me out of my cell. You say you're proud of me, but you don't know me that well. That one was so impactful because it's hollow. It's meaningless. And I'm proud of you. All right. When I say that to my children, I hope it invokes something different, whether they realize it now or not. When they look back, it's like, I remember those times. There are times I kiss them goodnight and I say, hey, I'm proud of you. Whenever we have kind of come to Jesus meetings in the house, sometimes when we feel like maybe we're getting a little derailed, I think the biggest meetings that we have are just pulling everybody together, saying like, hey, like we had a weekend recently, we just did no electronics. We felt like attitudes were kind of out of alignment. We felt like there wasn't a lot of gratitude. And that's one thing you really fight when you're trying to do a new thing with your family is you don't want to just dote on them so much that there's an entitlement. And so that's how we work to do that. And so we had a conversation around gratitude. We had a conversation around cutting words, just saying things meaninglessly, being sarcastic, like, hey, don't like the direction this is heading in the house. You guys got to cherish one another as brother and sister. You got to serve one another. And so and when we do those things, like I look at them, I say, hey, because my kids, man, they're amazing. They do incredible in school. They do incredible in athletics. They are wonderful humans. They're kind and generous and hardworking. And I tell them all those things. Hey, I just need you guys to know, okay? We're about to talk about a few things, but I need you to know first and foremost, I'm incredibly proud of you. I think you're wonderful. You work hard. You're loving. You're a great reflection of Jesus. But there are a few things that I think we just need to bring some attention to. And so that sense of like, I'm proud of you, I want it to carry weight, because they're like, yeah, they knew me really well. They saw the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and yet they still told me, I'm so proud of you. Sit in my room, tears running down my face, and I yell into my pillowcase, say you come in to get us, then call a minute later just to tell us you're not. I'm humiliated. And that's the experience. Like, it's one thing, I think, if that happens from time to time. You know, sometimes you can't help certain circumstances, whether it's traffic or you got called into work or there was an emergency. But if there's a trend of that happening over and over and over and over, set expectations and then don't come through, it's like, hey, don't get your hopes up, you know? And so I think that's also recognizing from a parent or grandparent role, be careful with what you say. Be a person of your word. I'm in a room with a parent I don't barely know, some lady in the corner watching us while she's taking notes. So obviously that speaks to like DFACS, doing a home visit. Gosh, dude, it's so sad. That's the reality of so many people. I don't get it, Mom. Don't you want to watch your babies grow? I guess pills are more important. All you have to say is no. And I understand, and I think he understands too, because he even says it in the beginning. I don't really understand the pills and the addiction side of it. And I know addiction is merciless, but there is a way out, and it is very much about values. What do you really want? If you really love me, if you really see this thing slipping away and you want to save it, because whether you like it or not, what you're saying is this thing is more important than you. You may never say it with your mouth, but your life says it. And I think we all have to be careful about that. You know, it doesn't have to be substances. Again, it can be career. If you're always prioritizing career, you're always there for somebody else and never there for your children. You're always coming through and delivering for someone else, but never coming through and delivering for your children. That's the expectation you set. Didn't you want to watch me grow? Didn't you want to be a part of what I cared about? I got this picture in my room and it kills me, but I don't need a picture of my mom. I need the real thing. Now a relationship is something we won't ever have. So that's that mourning, right? Whether they're alive or dead, I think they're both painful, because when they're gone, it's like there's no realization of what you desired. And in some ways, it's also hard when they're there, because like, I'm right here. But the challenge too is sometimes the divide gets so big that sometimes it will never be what it should have been in the beginning. But I think you can mourn on both sides, the loss in death and the loss in life. But why do I feel like I lost something I never had? That's the challenging one. That's kind of what I talked about, so I won't harbor on it much more. Why do I feel like I lost something I never had? That is the mourning of what could have been. And it's the same way, I think, in like romantic songs, right? The loss of a relationship, and you think about, man, what could we have been? What love could we have had? What life could we have built? And you mourn deeply, you grieve over something that you never had because you wonder what it could have been. And especially if you have a great relationship with your own children, you know, it's like, man, I wish I would have had this. You should have been there when I graduated, told me you loved me, and congratulations. Instead, you left us at the window waiting. Where you at, Mom? We're too young to understand. Where you at, huh? I know them drugs have held you captive. I see it in your eyes. They got your mind captured. Some say it's fun to get the high, but I'm not laughing. And I think that's the realization too, right? Sure, you want to go off and have all your fun, but man, you're not thinking about the cost of it toward others. What you don't realize, what you're not grasping, that I was nothing but a kid who couldn't understand it. I ain't going to say I forgive you because it hasn't happened. That's a very real statement, man. Thought that maybe I feel better as time passes if you really cared for me than where you at. And then obviously this gets into kind of their, her death. And him realizing at this point now, music's the only place that he can speak to her because she's gone. And I think his hope and intention in the song is that it would produce something better, that it might wake someone up. That maybe somebody's listening to it who is in the place his mother was in and might go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And on the other side of that, it might be some consolation to others who have felt the same way. Saying like, I know what that feels like, and knowing you have somebody there who can relate. Gave everything you had plus your life. So your money, your time, your affection, and now your life to that substance. Sometimes, and this was the talking part, when I'd have kids, I'm like, you won't be there, And that's again, the thought of mourning them getting to experience you bringing children into the world and your children not having the grandparent. Sometimes I wish I would have called you. I wish I would have picked up the phone. I wish you were here. I mean, you should have been there for us. You should have been here. And that's the challenge of placing the child in the place of the parent. Like, of course, I think it's important that children call their parents. But I don't know, I guess I'll see, when I'm grown, maybe I, should be the initiator. But I hope that my kids as well are eager to call, eager to check in. But at the same time, I want to be the type of person that I call, I check in. Wow. Really impactful song. Like I said, I'll have the music video over on Patreon, so you can feel free to head over there and check that out. I hope that ultimately this song can be an encouragement to you. If you're in a place that you're like, man, I really need to lean in, do it. Now, don't have an unrealistic expectation. If you haven't been in the picture for a long time, don't expect to be met with open arms. And I think that's just a healthy expectation to have. Because when you've hurt someone, there's a hesitation there. But it doesn't mean it's hopeless. Doesn't mean that you can't put in the time, the effort, the work, the care. And then, if this isn't your experience, cherish what you have. Lean in. Be the parent you desired. Be the grandparent you desired. And that your kids and grandchildren deserve. And if you're somebody that's been through something like this from the receiving end, be encouraged today. You're not forgotten. You're not lost. And even in that pain, the Lord can meet you, heal you. It is a shame because they are relationships that everybody should have. But in the absence of them, the Lord can be enough. And he can empower you to be the parent, the grandparent, the friend that you desired. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Thanks for being with me for this one. I hope to see you in the next one, because we're eating good.